you doing,
I'm
Damian?
great, thanks. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Not a problem at all. Yeah, I know that this has been a strenuous, I guess, press tour. And, I think in one of your other interviews, you mentioned that this project kind of became a full-time job or like a really big item, like on your radar, like very quickly. Can you talk a little bit about like the process or how we got to this point? I know that Lionsgate, they see your short, and then the next thing you're making a feature. Can you run through me like how that all happened?
Yeah, well, this project is a labor of love. It has consumed my life for quite some time now. Um, yeah, no, I made a short film. I was fortunate enough to get the opportunity to make a short film with phenomenal MSR Media. And that was through, they wanted to start this scheme where they would give young filmmakers the platform to use, all of their cast, all of their crew, not cast, sorry, all of their crew, all of their resources, to make a short film. And have this thing, to give back to young entertainers, to people working their way up in the industry. And I was the guinea pig. I was the first because my mother had made a movie with the head of the production company, the wonderful Philippe Martinez, and I got a call from him. He said, I want to start this scheme. I want to get back, but I need to know if it's possible, if it works, if it's enough time, if it's too little time. Will you be our first? And obviously that was every young filmmaker's dream to hit. I was like, of course I was. I did that short film, and I just thought that would be a great calling card for me for anything I wanted to do in the future. I thought if I were applying to film school, which was my plan, before I do that plan, I got called out of the blue that one of the executives at Lionsgate had seen the short film and he really liked it, thank God. And I got a call saying, do you have any scripts that we're really interested in you? We'd love to think maybe, having you write and direct a feature if you have a script that we'd like. So I went, of course, I've got tons of scripts. And panicked and ran away, trying to find, every idea I ever had in my life, going through every drawer, finding any idea I could find. And luckily I found this idea. I wrote it. They liked it, and yeah, I was fortunate enough to be able to make a feature.
Can you talk like, so you mentioned writing scripts and things like that. And I'm really curious about your process. Like, you wrote and directed your short. When you sit down to write, do you let the ideas flow, or is there a method behind your madness? Because it all starts with a script.
It does, and I think no matter how good your cast is, no matter how phenomenal your budget is, if you have a script that doesn't quite hold up, it's really hard to make a good movie. So no, for me, I find it very hard to write something if I feel directionless, if I don't know where it's going. So normally, before I sit down to write, I have a really good idea for the setup. I know where I want it to end. I have a few key parts that are going to happen in the middle. And then everything in between then, that I think is the beauty of writing, and one can take that time. So, yeah, I hate films, I hate writing when it's directionless. So really I have a good setup before I even start. A great idea of the ending. I'm a real sucker for endings. I love having my ending exactly mapped out, which could change if one's inspired a different way of writing. And then my middle points all the way through. That for me is the beauty of the writing process. All of that, I don't like having regimented script going into it from that.
After watching this film and listening to your process, I am kind of curious about your inspirations. Like, what films did you watch growing up that you really like? I would assume it'd be like thrillers and those types of films, but having your background being on set, growing up on set ultimately, is there anything that stands out to you as inspirations for this film and just you in general?
God, I mean, so much. I find people can be inspired for writing by an advert on TV or thinking something in a shop window. I think it's a very dangerous thing. I think we can hear it if a writer is really inspired by Pulp Fiction or something. We all know it. We can hear it the second it comes on screen. I think I love a lot of European filmmakers. I'm Francois Ozon's biggest fan in the world. And Fontaine. I love French. Funny enough, someone was saying to me he's my favorite British filmmaker the other day, and I'm still trying to come up with an idea because there are tons, but it's much really, I respond a lot better to very European, sensual, more cinema. I love. But no, I think, growing up on set was really the biggest thing for me that really, really pushed me into just adoring this industry and just, in every which way. I remember my very first day on set, my mom, she was shooting, I think, a season of Gossip Girl, and I literally I couldn't believe my life. Everywhere I looked, I went, oh my God, this is my life. This is what I have to do. And I'm working towards it every day since.
Excellent. So yeah, strictly confidential. We've all heard the story about how your mother gifted you a camcorder and then she agreed to be in your
Yeah.
first film. So do you do you think that this is the film that she expected that she was signing up for all those years ago?
No, no, and it's definitely wasn't the film I was expecting either. So when I wrote her part originally, my mother's part in this was a man role. And that was, I offered her this part of a tiny flashback ghost. What, originally the husband and wife parts were flipped over. So
Gotcha.
the wife had died and was seen in beautiful flashbacks, and the husband had a very important part doing very bad things. Um, I then had this idea to flip it around, and I'd already offered her this part. So, no, so even at that point, I still didn't think she was in play. It wasn't like an instant, oh, and I'll just beg mum to play this. Then suddenly, when I finished, I read it again, and I went, she's really good at this part. And so I sat her down, took a deep breath, take this away, read it, movie thing. And luckily she loved it and signed on, and thank God, it was really amazing.
Yeah, speaking of, her role, now that I've seen the film, I'm really not sure what all the fuss was about. The headlines with you two working together, and then everyone was kind of so up in arms. Were you expecting that sort of response initially?
No, not to this extent. I mean, even from our very first trailer that was leaked a very long time ago, people had sort of, oh my God, from that. No, I didn't expect it at all. I think, when someone makes something, one can sense quite easily when people are trying to be provocative, as a thing, which so wasn't what we were doing any world. We had 18 shooting days for this film. Every second was frantic, losing the night, being died by mosquitoes. Every minute counts, every second matters. The last thing you're thinking of ways to be wild and provocative. Um, no, and I think also, I'm very comforted by the fact that if anyone actually takes time to watch the film before sitting down and decreeing moral outrage, they'll see there's no controversy at all. Exploitation couldn't be further off the menu. Everyone actually sits fully clothed.
Exactly. Yeah, my thoughts exactly. Was there any challenges? I know you touched on mosquitoes and the busy schedule, but not only that, but like directing. This is your first big feature. Was there any difficulties or challenges directing a character or characters really who is involved in taboo romances or very much emotional depth with these characters? I could imagine that would be a little difficult considering this is such, a big project for you, an undertaking, if you will.
Yeah, well, I mean, this was my first feature. I was the youngest on set by a good decade, mostly more, and in charge of 100 plus costume crews, so it had the potential to be terrifyingly daunting. Um, to be honest, I sort of feel in a way it was a natural progression. I've been making little short films since I was 8,
Yeah.
torturing every long-suffering family and friend I can get my hands on to be in them. So really, being a despot is just second nature. I think I rose to the occasion. No, I think, funnily enough, I was really startled on this, but things I found most challenging, absolutely nothing to do with my job. Actually writing, directing, being in charge, working with actors, I'm in my comfort zone, I'm in my element, I feel great. The logistical hell that's thrown at you from every single angle when you're directing is something that I knew, but I hadn't sunk in quite that much. You can't go a minute without the trucks haven't turned up. The lights are gone. We're showing up on the beach to shoot a peaceful scene, but it's a tornado warning, a tropical storm. That's a really great scene. What do we do? I think that that was the biggest learning curve for me, and I grew so much from that. But it was a really good learning curve. And I have to say, I had the most supportive cast in the world. My mother is a creative producer, and she was phenomenal. And every single day was just invaluable, and has been ever since through this entire process, through post, through marketing, through the pitch, everything. Um, so no, it really, I think that was the biggest shock to me, the logistical startlingness of making a movie.
Yeah. Speaking of the cast, I thought that everyone was like very like beautiful in a sense. Like there was like this aesthetic of just like they were just all extremely attractive. And I was kind of curious, is that something you were going for? And then also too, like how close were you uh involved in the casting process?
The casting was all of me. Thank God. I think it's a recipe for disaster when directors are trying to cast onto them. I think no one's happy. That was between me. My mum was invaluable for that. My wonderful producer Philippe actually found Georgia Locke, who played Mia. He had made a movie with her already, and he said, "You've got to check this girl out. She's phenomenal," and I loved her. So I'm grateful to him for that forever. But no, I think no. What I really wanted for this, and it was really important, and that was part of the reason why having it on this beautiful island was so important, was to create this magical, wonderful facade, and then under the surface, everything's horrific. That
Yeah.
was really important for me. That you meet this family, and you go, oh my god, they're the most beautiful people you've ever seen, in the most beautiful place you've ever seen, doing the most horrific things you've ever seen. And that I love. I love that real, under the surface, horrible things with the beautiful exterior on top. I think it's important. And I think, I think people who don't watch the film too closely couldn't just say, oh, it's lots of beautiful people, but thank you for noting that it's not, because that's not the point of it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that honestly brings me to like my wrap up. You kind of hit the nail on the head. But is there anything else that you want audiences to get out of this film? How do you want them to feel when this is over?
God, I mean, I've said this before. I think really, as entertainers, our job is just to entertain. And there are heavy themes in this. There are real harsh truths throughout. But I actually just want people to have a good time and enjoy watching a movie, and hope they've, have had great 92 minutes or whatever we are. Because it's a labor of love. I love it. I hope everyone loves it as much as I do. And I think it's very creatively terrifying when you put yourself out there and share with the world what you are, and it's a very interesting thing. But no, I hope people love it. I really do. The feedback I've had so far from friends and family and people who've seen it, they've loved it. Thank God, loyally. So yeah, I really hope people like it.
Well, Damien, it has been an absolute pleasure getting to know you and talk to you. And I look forward to the next one. And, and that's kind of where I want to end it is, are you working on the next script? Or, I really enjoy like your twisty tales, and I would love to see more of that from you. And maybe even like some more, like there was some horror elements in this film too. Have you maybe considered, going that route? I know your mom just did The Piper. And so maybe there's
Yeah.
something there.
Well, thank you. That's actually the nicest thing ever, because that's always a genre that I've loved but been kind of terrified of. I think the second someone says they're going to make a horror movie, especially if I've done it for a first time director horror movie at 20 years old, everyone's like, whoa. So yeah, there is another film in the works that I'm really excited about. That would be me as a writer director. My mother's already very kindly agreed to creatively produce. She won't be in this one. Which I'm really excited about. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say. I want to say more. But hopefully you'll have me back to talk about it when it's out and when I promote it again, because I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, there was one particular scene in Strictly Confidential when it's like a shot and it's the framing is just the knife, and I was like, he knows what he's doing. So yeah, man, I really
Oh,
enjoyed the
thank you so
conversation.
much.